the diversity, of course, India is very much there. Everyone knows there are 14 major languages, there are all kind of religions, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Sikhism, there are different regions, all kind of differences. My idea was to see, not only idea, is there a unity also between that diversity? Now that unity has been always looked at by all the travelers which came from Europe, right from 3rd century BC, the Megasthenes, the Greek traveler, to the Arab travelers. They all said there is something like unity in that diversity. What has happened is that in modern world, we look too much at differences. We don't look what is common. We only look what is not common. I think part of it is anthropology, which wants to look at it, differences. So we look at really the trees and not the forest at all. So my idea was to look at that forest. What is the pattern among all that diversity? That diversity, of course, but can only come, that unity can only be seen if it is compared to another civilization, which is then I do by comparing it to Western civilization. Because of course in India, I'm a Punjabi, but outside India, I'm an Indian. So it is the same here. Probably you're a Catalonia in Spain, Spanish in Europe, and a European outside. So what is that European part of you is what interests me, and what is that Indian part of me which interests, not the difference part of the Punjabi, or in your case, say, the Catalonian or the Spanish. But one big difference, I would say, is on how relationships are viewed, individual relationships. The relationships India is a much more relational society, in the sense of people not outside relation, they're not individuals, they are viewed as how you are related to me, so as cousins, brothers, caste, higher caste, etc., which is a very big difference. I was just saying earlier of the giving example of Schopenhauer's parable between that human relations are like hedgehogs on a cold night. They come nearer to get warmth, prick each other with quills which pains, so they move away, but then they start feeling cold again, come again nearer, and this to and fro movement goes on till they find an optimal position between the pain which comes from the nearness to the others and the coldness which comes from the distance to others. And cultures or civilizations have a different point of those. So in India, I think we accept greater pain to get the warmth than the Westerners, who would accept a greater coldness to avoid the pain of nearness. So there are differences of that kind. Most people know that China can be can cause problems. We have a boundary dispute with China still. There was a war with China in 1962. So there is a wariness about China, but also a desire that not to kind of make China an enemy, because the trade between China and India has become huge, and that will be also in the future. The trade, that side would be much, much more than the trade which India needs. So how to keep China, not let it become an enemy, but also not to kind of give in to it demands, etc., is going to be a big problem. And one sees it in the diplomatic relationships being with Burma and Vietnam and Philippines and all the other countries who are also somewhat scared of China, but to have it in a way that it does not threaten the Chinese also. So it's a delicate diplomatic balance being done. I just wrote a piece for the Times of India on it, with this, and the title was, "Is an Indian woman a person?" And the answer is a qualified yes or a qualified no. In the traditional Indian thought, a woman is a person in relationships only. When she's a mother, She's a daughter, a wife, an aunt, or some kind of quasi-relationships. So in villages, for instance, everyone is addressed as sister or mother. So, but the idea that a woman is an individual outside relationships, that's a new Western idea. And outside relationships, she's not a person, she's just a female. And female, which means where kind of sexual atrocities or field of enjoyment for men, she's looked upon in that kind of a way. Now with all kind of migrations taking place to the cities, where a lot of young men and women are coming for work, etc., the mindset of many young men is not geared to deal with these women who they cannot fit into their mental categories as one of the relations. They do not dress like that, they do not look like that, so they are not even somehow fitting into it. And that becomes that they are not to be respected, they are not individual rights, they do not have individual rights. And that is a big problem which has come. But that, I think, is not going to be avoided. I think individual rights, human rights, full universal rights for women as individuals is going to happen, is happening. The only big problem is that with the Western idea of the woman as a person, not only woman, but universal rights of a person or individual, is the idea that the body, human body, has no other value than as a field of enjoyment, that all kind of sexual excesses are okay. Now this is a Western idea which is creating a much, much greater problem into India, because that clashes with the Indian idea of the body as, well, as a temple for the soul. It is an important thing. That's where the fire of creation is. So and that then the idea of the sexual excesses related to the body, that is also a Western idea which goes against the good idea of the individual, is the idea of that individual also means sexual excess. That is then negates it.